What's going on? This is Ryan with Automatic Comics, and I made a mistake in one of my prior key videos. I forgot a big key in one of those lists. I've got that book in here. I've got a $1,200 unboxing. I'm going to talk about that book and where it fits in that list and if it's a good book to buy right now or not. Stay tuned. Alright, so before we get started, please remember to hit that like button and hit the subscribe button if you'd like to see more content like this. So, like I said, I've got a $1,200 unboxing here. There's actually 3 books in here. One of them is this key that I forgot about in one of my prior videos. I try to pick out about 10 books. So this would have made it 11, but I should have had it in there. So this is actually from my Batman Silver Age key list. And it didn't even cross my mind until I was watching a claim sale on Facebook. And this book came up that I ended up purchasing. And I was like, oh man, I forgot to include that on that list of Silver Age Batman keys. And so what I'll do is I'll show these books in here, and then I'm going to go over where that book fits in on that list, if it's undervalued right now, or if there's maybe certain grades that look undervalued or not, because I'm going to take a little bit of a deeper dive into this book since it's just one book this time instead of 10. But then I will throw it up on that list to see where it stands compared to those other ones. So, like I said, there are about $1,200 in books, 3 books in here, and I'll save that one for last because that's the issue that I'm talking about. Now the first one here, I've never owned a copy of this. I thought it was a cool chance to get to pick up this book, and this is Superman number 63. But this is actually, you can see, published in Canada. So this is I'll call it like the Canadian variant. I've had a couple of those with Batman books. I've never had one with Superman, but I thought the really cool thing about this one was that Superman doesn't ever really have any type of good girl art type covers, but this is one of the few. You could call this like a good girl art cover for Superman. This is from 1950, so it is technically it's a pre-code book. It's a golden age book, but yeah, just a cool book. It's a lower grade. You can see. I believe it's detached. That's where the staple is and everything like that. So detached cover, but still cool book. 1950, and just not a really. I wouldn't even call it like a campy Superman cover. It's just kind of your standard good girl art type cover. Now the second book here, this one is much older. This one is actually from 1943, and I have definitely never had a copy of this. This is Thrilling Comics number 36. Now, there are some downsides to books from this era. You've got some kind of like racist imagery on the cover, but this is the first appearance of the Commando Cubs. You've got a skull cover and kind of like a good girl art type cover as well. But this one is 1943. It doesn't have any real war imagery on it, like World War II type imagery, but still a World War II era cover. This is an Alex Schomburg cover as well. So you have that Alex Schomburg component. You've got World War II era good girl art cover and kind of like a skull cover from that time period as well, right there. So I thought this was a cool book, so picked up this one as well. Now the last book here, this is the one that is the other Batman Silver Age key and part of the reason it slipped my mind was it's not in any of your standard titles, so you might have guessed what it is already. And this is Superman's Girlfriend, Lois Lane, number 70. And I just thought this one looked really nice. The white on this cover often gets kind of really an off-white type tinge to it, and this one has a really bright white cover. There are some flaws to it. You've got a relatively large bend there, but definitely something where pressing could improve it. There's probably some fiber break in there, it looks like, so you're not going to completely get rid of it. But in general, a pretty nice looking copy of this book. And this book has been getting quite a bit more expensive lately. A lot of demand for this book. And you see it's even got this cool little date stamp over here. And so this is the first Silver Age appearance of Catwoman, you know, fighting on the front, the front cover here, and this one is actually from 1966, and so this is pretty late in the Silver Age, so she hadn't appeared in in one of these DC Comics for quite some time, and so that's what this one is here, for Silver Age appearance of Catwoman, and that is the book that I'm going to focus on for this video, see where it sits with these other Batman keys. So I'll throw up real quick the chart that I put together for the Batman key video that I did previously. You can see here I had identified 3 books from those 10 Silver Age Batman keys that looked undervalued to me. Detective Comics 298, which is the first Silver Age Clayface, Batman 155, which is the first Silver Age Penguin, and Batman 189, which is the first Silver Age Scarecrow. So you can see all of those, you've got their first appearances that are all the way back in the Golden Age that cost just thousands and thousands of dollars, and then you've got their first appearances in the Silver Age that are quite a bit later in these Batman and Detective Comics runs, and in this case, in Superman's Girlfriend. Now, like I said, this one is in a completely different title, and I do think it is often overlooked somewhat because of that. It's not in your standard Batman titles. It's in a Superman title, and not even a main Superman title. It's in a kind of like a subcategory, Superman's Girlfriend, Lois Lane. And so, often overlooked, but her first appearance is in Batman #1. I mean, that is a book that very few people are ever going to be able to afford or even have a chance to own. And so this is a great alternative. Plus, she's on the cover and wearing, you know, a more normal costume. If you watched my prior video where I did a flip through of Batman #3, which is the first time that you see her in costume, her costume is just crazy. It's like she's wearing a giant taxidermy cat head. And so at least this one is a little more what we're used to seeing her kind of like dressed up as. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over the numbers on this book to see where it sits compared to those other books that are up on that list. So for this one, because I'm only looking at one book, I thought I would look at a few different grades. The first grade was a CGC 5.0. Price a year ago for a 5.0 was $250. The record was $495 back on June 7th, and its current price is about $450. It had a November 23rd sale of $464, but it was as low as $348 in August. But given those prices, it's up about 86% from this time last year, down around 9% from its peak. It's right near its peak right now. Then I looked at a CGC 6.0. The price a year ago for that was $265. You can see very similar to the 5.0 at $250. The record it hit was $625 on both April 29th and November 7th. So it has come back up and hit that record again. Its current price right at about $600. So it's up 126% from this time last year, really just at its peak right now. Then I looked at a CGC 6.5. Price a year ago, $315, a little bit higher than that 6.0 at $265. It had a big record. It hit a record at $910 on November 18th. Its current price is about $900. It is up 186% from this time last year. Again, another book that is at its peak. These books really haven't started to turn down yet, or aren't turning down like we've seen with the Marvel books earlier this year. Then the last one I looked at was a CGC 7.5. Price a year ago was $400, but there's not a lot of sales on this book. There's not a lot of copies of this book in these higher grades, so it's a little tougher to price. Its record on October 26th was $1,190 for that 7.5. So the current price about $1,100. And the reason I have it at that and not at $1,190 is it took a really big jump from $825 to that $1,190. So it may be kind of an outlier there. So I said $1,100, up 175% from this time last year. So also, again, a book that is near its peak, up quite a bit. So you can see we have quite a bit of variation across grades, with how much these books have gone up over the last year. So I put all of those on a little figure next to each other so you can see the grades, the 5.0, 6.0, 6.5, and 7.5 compared to one another. I picked these just because there were relatively recent sales for these books, so I could actually do a comparison with them. They're also in the area of the more common graded books and kind of that mid-grade. Once you get to the really low grades, there aren't a lot of them that are graded, and the really high grades, they're pretty uncommon and don't sell all that often. But like I said, you can see some pretty significant performance differences in these books depending on the grade. And so I think that could mean one of maybe two things. There could be something else I'm missing as well. But one is that the lower grades right now are a little more undervalued. So you can see that 5.0 only up 86%, down 9% from its high, compared to the 7.5 and the 6.5 that are up 186 and 175%, double the performance basically of that 5.0. So that could be that you've really got some value in those lower grades, the ones that haven't moved quite as much as the high grades. The other reason for this price difference could be that we had a lot of price compression with this book about a year ago. And what I mean by price compression is that when you have across multiple grades, a pretty large span of grades, you have very similar prices. And that's what you could see, especially with the 5.0, 6.0, and 6.5, where a year ago their prices were $250, $265, and $315. So across 1.5 grades, very little difference in price. But then as the prices started to go up, you got some separation in those prices. And this is something else we saw with a lot of Marvel books this year as well. We saw that with Giant Size X-Men 1, Hulk 181, tons of price compression in those books, and they really spread out where you got some much higher prices in the high grades, and the lower grades also went up as well, but not quite as much. Now you can see between that 5.0 and that 7.5, you go from about $450 to $1,100 compared to where they were before at $250 up to $400. So a price separation of only $150, now at a price separation of $650. So you've got a lot more range in the value of these books now. So I'll let you decide what you think that means with this, if it means that it's undervalued or if you think it means that we're just seeing some separation from that price compression. Now for me, I picked up this book because I felt like it was a really great price, and I'd never had a copy of this book before, so I thought it was a good opportunity to pick up this copy. Now, the next thing I did was I picked a couple of them and put them on the list compared to the other Batman keys to see how they compare with respect to performance. So I'll put that next chart up here. And so I've got Superman's Girlfriend, Lois Lane, number 70, down on the bottom there. I have the 5.0 and the 7.5, just as the kind of the bookends of the grades that I looked at. And you can see this book, even in that 5.0, actually performed very well compared to the other Silver Age Batman keys. Books that I recommended, the Detective Comics 298, only up 20%, the Batman 155 only up 54%, and the Batman 189 up 80%. That one was a little bit more, but all less than the 86% and definitely the 175% I saw with the 7.5. Actually, in those high grades, the 175 and 186% increase that I saw for the 7.5 and 6.5, actually the best performer of all the Batman Silver Age keys if you're looking at those two grades. So you can see that book had significant gains over this last year. It's not a huge surprise. I mean, Catwoman really is one of the most popular Batman, call her a villain, kind of plays both sides of the coin there, but Batman villains. And with how expensive and really unobtainable that first Golden Age appearance is, as well as a lot of just her in general Golden Age books, they're all very expensive. This one is much more affordable. You get her on the cover, and it's kind of a fun cover. So what does that tell me about this book, about this first Silver Age appearance of Catwoman? And to me, it doesn't mean don't buy it, but it does mean that you should be very aware of the price that you're paying for that book, because it is up a lot from where it was earlier this year. And if you're doing a comparison of where you want to spend your money, if you're looking at Batman keys, there are other books on this list that are more undervalued right now than this one. But if this is the book you want, obviously that's what you should buy. But if you're trying to do some type of value comparison, I would still go for Detective Comics 298, Batman 155, or Batman 189. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed this video. I just wanted to make sure that I covered this one since I realized that I forgot this, what really is a pretty big Silver Age Batman key, and I think I forgot it for the same reason that a lot of people do, is that it's not in one of those main Batman titles. But if you found this useful, please hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you'd like to see more content like this. I've got more videos over here if you'd like to watch some of my other videos, and the subscription button right here if you'd like to subscribe to the channel. I would really appreciate it, and I will see you in the next video.